So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Flash Girl, the Fourth Shinobi War, Madara, Kaguya, and Black Zetsu were all finally finished. Naruto glanced about at the gaunt faces of his friends and sensei before catching a glimpse of something in the corner of his eye. He turned around and smiled, seeing the bijou moving around. Naruto waved before sprinting toward them, his face split in a broad smile. "Hey! Kurama!" he exclaimed, raising both fists into the air. "Were you lonely being separated from me? I miss you!" Kurama angrily shouted, one fist balled. "Don't talk so loud! I wasn't lonely, you have half of me inside you, remember?" Son Goku erupted into laughter, pleased by the exchange. The other spectators soon followed, and Hagoromo laughed, relieved that Kurama had such a loving buddy. But there was still an issue that needed to be settled, so Hagoromo put on his serious mask again before speaking. "This is the perfect moment. I will release the jutsu, free the 5 Kages and those under the Edo Tensei." Naruto froze, then swiftly turned to face his father. When he noticed that his father was staring back at him, Naruto glanced up at his nine-tailed companion as though requesting permission. "Go," Kurama said, and Naruto quickly jumped at Minato, landing in front of him. "Dad," Naruto said, pausing to consider his words. "Oh, that's right." Minato grinned as she realized what she had been going to say. "Happy birthday, Naruto," Minato said as the sun rose, illuminating the devastated battlefield with a brightness that was almost angelic. "Yeah, thank you," Naruto said with a solemn smile. As Minato nodded his head and murmured, "It's time to say goodbye," his kind smile never faltered. Naruto's eyes darkened, sorrowful that his father couldn't stay any longer. Minato proclaimed, "I promise to tell Kushina everything," as his immortal body started to glow and disintegrate, signifying the liberation of his spirit. Naruto grinned at his mother's name. Before his father disappeared from the world, Naruto hurried to think of something to say. "Tell her not to worry, I'm eating properly. I'm not picky and eat lots of different stuff. Like tonkatsu ramen, miso ramen, and shoyu ramen," Naruto said. "Oh, but not just ramen though. I tried to bathe every day. I was really awful at school, but I never got depressed and had more confidence than anyone else. What else? I've made lots of friends. And they're all really good guys." Naruto started to rant in an attempt to express everything he wanted to say. "Of course, I always obeyed Lord Third and Kakashi Sensei. I respect them both. Oh, and those 3 prohibitions of shinobi? I learned a lot about that when I was with Pervy Sage. I just turned 17 today, so I don't know much about alcohol and girls," he said. "Not everything Mom told me about went well," Naruto said, his eyes welling with tears, "but I'm doing the best I can. I've got dreams too. I know Mom said to find someone like her, but that's he stammered, oblivious to the proud yet sad expression his father was giving him. As his father's spirit finally released the jutsu, Naruto exclaimed, "I'm going to become an even greater Hokage than you, Dad. I swear I will." Tears were streaming down Naruto's face as his father's spirit prepared to depart. "So when you see Mom over there, please tell her that she doesn't have to worry about me at all. Tell her I'm doing my best." Minato cursed. "Got it, I'll make sure to tell her everything." Before he eventually vanished from the planet, leaving behind nothing but a heap of ash. After 17 years of parentless memories, Naruto's shoulders trembled as that one father-son exchange finally brought them back. Time skip, A decade, 10 long years had passed since the end of the war, and during that time, Naruto had grown as a person and as a shinobi. He had gained strength and knowledge, become a spouse and parent, and finally realized his dream. He had only recently been appointed Hokage, but his children prevented him from attending his inauguration. Nevertheless, he assumed that he should be happy of his child for activating her Byakugan at age 6. He wasn't used to being joyful, yet he was. Skip time. 230 years after 257 years, he was finally dying. He had been Hokage for almost 20 years before handing the baton over to Konohamaru, and he had witnessed the ascent and decline of 8 other Hokages. In addition to witnessing the resurgence of the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans, he had faced more opponents than any other shinobi except Madara and Hashirama. He had also witnessed the deaths of his son and daughter, his wife and friends, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren. Naruto had seen a lot of things and had been prepared to die for nearly 150 years, but he just couldn't seem to pass away. However, it was finally his time, and while he was happy that his friend would be free like the others, he was sad that he would have to say goodbye to Kurama, the one constant in his life. Naruto was successful in creating a new charter for the allied shinobi nations more than 225 years ago. Among the many requirements was that the use of Jinchuriki and the capture of the bijou be prohibited and prosecuted as crimes against the world and the natural order. The bijou were viewed as protectors and peaceful peacekeepers. Yes, Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, the most unpredictable shinobi, the Kage among Kages, the god of shinobi, the savior of the world, and the esteemed elder of the Kage Council, was finally near death. Now, 230 years later, his longtime friend and companion would finally have the freedom he had sought for over 300 years. Naruto was prepared to die, surrounded by his great-grandchildren and the Kages of all 5 nations. Do not frown, do not shed tears, young ones, I am at peace. I can finally see my friends, my wife, and your parents and grandparents. I am at peace, because I trust the future of our world to you. I know that you will bring our world to greater heights. Naruto smiled, his old, weary face brightening. With a voice that was abnormally powerful for a man his age, Naruto proclaimed, "Just remember, the path to peace is never easy, it's not supposed to be. But so long as you communicate and understand one another, the world will continue to live in eternal peace. The dreams of shinobi, past and present, will never be in vain." As Naruto exhaled his last breath, he declared, "The future is never certain, but we can always make our own fates. Remember that." Today was a depressing day because it was the death of a legend. As the weather turned gloomy after being sunny and bright moments earlier, the sky started to cry, as though the world itself realized that the greatest man in history had passed away. The tears would last for a month after his death. The world, for that one day, stopped spinning, and everyone was there for Naruto's funeral. Even the 9 guardian bijou were present. Instead of being buried in a cemetery, Naruto was given his own plot of land, which was almost 10 acres in size. In the middle of the plot was a 50-foot statue of Naruto, and the rest of the land was transformed into a park where men, women, and children could walk, talk, play, and unwind. This park would be known as Kami's Garden because it contained what everyone believed to be the body of Kami's warrior and guardian. And so, Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto's saga ended, or did it? Kami's palace. When Naruto's eyes opened, he leaped to his feet and briefly glanced around in confusion. "What happened? The last thing I remember was I died," Naruto asked, his eyes widening as his life's memories suddenly returned to him. Puzzled, Naruto questioned. I died? A voice bellowed. Yes, you did, Naruto-kun. In search of the speaker in the room, Naruto's eyes darted around. Before seeing something odd, Naruto exclaimed, Who are you? Where am I? Looking down at himself, Naruto saw that he was at the same level of strength he had attained when he was Hokage. He was about 35 years old at the time of his peak, and his chakra levels had increased to match Kurama's in terms of both size and potency. Who am I? The voice asked, and as he started to respond, a light burst before it condensed into a person. I believe your people, Kami, the voice said. When the surrounding light faded, an androgynous figure dressed entirely in white emerged. Kami's hair was a deeper chestnut brown, which stood out sharply against their dazzling golden irises. Naruto said, I apologize for my uncouthness, Kami-sama, and bowed before the deity right away. Stand up, Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, you of all people are not one who should bow before me, if anything, it is I who must bow to you, Kami remarked as they lowered their heads. Kami laughed as Naruto said incredulously, Why would you bow to me? I'm a mortal. Kami responded, I bow before you, Naruto-kun, as thanks and as an apology. Was sincerity evident in his tone? What do you mean? What could you have done to me that you deem so reprehensible that you find it necessary to lower yourself by apologizing to me? Naruto urged. Your destiny was to be the greatest savior your world has ever known. However, because of my carelessness, your mother and father died the night you were born. They were supposed to have survived to raise you. Because of my foolishness, you suffered the worst of humanity as a child with no parental guidance. Kami explained, sorrow filling its tone. I don't regret my childhood, Kami-sama. Had it turned out differently, I may not have become the man I was. I have accepted it, so there is no reason for you to apologize. I suppose even you are not infallible, Naruto said with a gentle, empathetic tone. If you don't mind me asking, Kami-sama, what exactly were you doing that distracted you that night? Naruto asked abruptly as an idea suddenly came to him. To be honest, I was eating ramen while reading those little orange books your old sensei created, Naruto said as Kami's face abruptly turned scarlet. A few hot springs in the unspoiled land suddenly, an elderly man with white hair sprung out of hiding, dropped his pen and notebook, and pumped his fist in the air. Ha! Some higher being has acknowledged my books. I have finally turned a deity down the path of Aika. Jiraiya shrieked. His shout was a bit too loud, though, since the kunoichi and other women in the hot springs soon discovered where he was hiding. Killing intent then swept over him, startling him out of his victory dance. Jiraiya turned with a gulp and saw two women he was more afraid of than the Shinigami. Jiraiya only managed to say, Keikushina-chan, Tsunade-heim, I can explain, before being battered unconscious. Unfortunately for the perverted sage, he was a spirit and could withstand an endless amount of harm without dying, so not a single female refrained from attacking the elderly toad. Returning to Kami's palace, Naruto's jaw dropped open and his face grew slack. His thoughts screamed, Ha! I knew it! Ramen really is the food of gods! With his head spinning, Naruto asked, So you mean to say that you, Kami, creator of life, got distracted because you were reading pervy sage's porn while eating ramen? Before he abruptly collapsed on the ground in laughter. Naruto gasped for air as he coughed out. Who would have thought that Kami-sama would be a perv? Kami defended Naruto by exclaiming, Oh, I'm not a pervert, you ass! The storyline is just really good. This led to another round of screaming, sobbing laughter. Naruto's sides ached almost 5 minutes later, but he was beaming broadly and laughing now and then. Naruto questioned abruptly. You never did explain why you wanted to thank me, Kami-sama? Because, Naruto-kun, you have done what should have been impossible for your world for another 3 millennia. You created lasting peace, an everlasting golden era within your world. Because of you, your world will become one of the most influential in the universe. Because of you, I can finally take a break. Kami exclaimed, the final line. Man, who would have thought Kami would be so lazy? They're almost as lazy as Shikamaru. Caused Naruto to face fail. Another location in the Pure Lands, Shikamaru sighed as he sat up from his perch on his favorite hill for watching clouds and heard a dark, pineapple-haired guy sneeze. Shikamaru said, as he threw himself back onto his seat. I don't know why, but I feel like Naruto is talking about me, somewhere, troublesome blonde. Returning to Kami's palace. Right, well, was that all you wanted? Because I still need to meet some people in the Pure Lands, Naruto stated. Yes, you see, Naruto, because of everything you've done for me, I've decided to do something for you. If you wish, I can give you a second chance at life. The only conditions are that your new life will be in a different universe. You will have no access to chakra at all, and only you can go. Kami said, face devoid of humor. Naruto asked, if I say yes, can I retain my memories of my past? Yes, you may keep those memories so long as you never tell another person about them. The knowledge you possess can wreak havoc if it falls into the wrong hands. Kami responded, can I have some time to think about it? Naruto asked, nodding. Yes, of course. When you have your answer, just call on me. Until then, enjoy your well-deserved rest, Uzumaki Namake's Naruto. Kami roared. After Kami's words, Naruto was filled with light and found himself standing in front of the gates to a precise duplicate of his clan's complex. Naruto smiled as he walked up the path past the garden and onto the porch, where he got ready to open the sliding door. Prior to him doing so, the door opened, revealing his lovely wife, Hinata Hyuga, in all her lavender splendor. His mother and father were behind her, followed by Jiraiya, Tsunade, and all of his friends. All of his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren were behind them. Before saying 2 words that he had been missing for more than 2 centuries, Hinata gave him a lovely, endearing grin. Welcome home. Naruto smiled as he came through the doorway and gave his wife a tight embrace. I miss you, my Lavenderheim. I miss you too, my Maelstrom Knight. All of a sudden, Naruto's friends and family were all around him, hugging, laughing, and conversing. The celebration went on all night long, and Naruto's smile never once faltered. Yes, for the first time in a long time, Naruto was content, and he was at least home. XO time skip. 2 weeks. Naruto's home in Pure Lands OX. After spending so much time in the living world, Naruto had more experience and power than anyone else he could find in the pure world. It took him one glorious, peaceful week to find his fill of peace. He was bored because there was nothing enjoyable to do in a perfect world where no one died or suffered, not even sparring worked for him. Since he had already lived more than 2.5 centuries longer than anyone else, Naruto's mind was divided as he spent the following week thinking about Kami's proposal. On the one hand, he wanted to live again and experience life again, but on the other hand, he felt as though he was betraying his friends, family, and everyone he had ever cared for. What justifies giving him another opportunity at life? Naruto wasn't sure how he felt about his predicament. He wasn't feeling guilty, but it didn't feel right for him to have another chance at life after having lived longer than any human had ever lived. Naruto-kun? Are you alright? Hinata inquired, observing her husband's confused expression. Momentarily taken aback by her unexpected appearance, Naruto stammered. What? Hinata, yes, I'm alright, I'm just thinking. Hinata asked. Oh? What are you thinking about? Before I entered the Pure Lands, I may have met Kami. Naruto spoke slowly, as if he was incredulous. Only you, Naruto-kun, would end up meeting Kami when you die, Hinata said, her eyes widening before she burst out laughing. Anyway, they made a proposition. They said that because of what I had done, I deserved to have a second chance at life in another universe, Naruto said. Hinata questioned. Wait, what exactly did you do? Well, according to Kami, I did the impossible and ensured that our world would have an eternity of peace, a golden era lasting all the way to the end of time. Naruto grumbled meekly. Hinata stared at him in disbelief that he had done something so unthinkable. So you brought peace to the world, look at that, I guess you did find peace, just like you swore you would to Jiraiya-sama, said Hinata. Yeah, well, Kami said that if I agreed, I would be born again in another world, with no chakra, and only I can go. They said I could keep my memories of this life, but I don't know, I just feel like if I do, I'm betraying you and everyone else, Naruto replied. Do it, Naruto said as he turned to face the door and was startled to see his father, mother, and friends grinning at him. What? Mom, Dad, what do you mean? Naruto stuttered. If I do this, I might no ever see you again. Naruto, you've always focused on helping everyone else. You sacrificed so much in your life just to save your friends and the world. You deserve a second chance at living a normal life, so do it. Accept Kami's offer, Kushina said beaming. Your mother's right, Sochi, you've done enough for this world, you've brought peace to it. Real lasting peace, you deserve this chance. Besides, we all know that if you take this offer, you'll just try to bring peace to that world too, so go ahead, accept the offer and bring peace to that world too. Minato smiled. Naruto looked around and noticed that all of his buddies were grinning and nodding their heads in encouragement. He then turned to face Hinata, who was also grinning at him. Naruto's head jumped up to see his son and daughter, Boruto and Himawari, smiling at him. Dad, accept the offer, do what you do best and save another world, Naruto said. Naruto-kun, you've spent nearly 6 lifetimes being selfless for the world. For once I think it will be fine if you are selfish. Take this chance, grow up in this new life and find love again. When you die, we'll be here waiting for you. Hinata smiled sweetly, caressing his cheek affectionately. Naruto grinned gratefully and said, You guys, thank you. Appreciating that his loved ones had embraced and encouraged him. With his family and friends trailing behind him, Naruto got up and went out the door to the backyard. He turned around and grinned at them while observing their faces and learning their features. See you in another lifetime. I promise you that next time, I'll stay, said Naruto. Okay, Kami, I've decided. I accept your proposal. Send me to this new life, Naruto exclaimed, raising his head to the heavens. Prepare yourself, Naruto-kun. You will be crossing the dimensional barrier and will be sent to a different world at random. It will be painful. Kami's voice rang out in his thoughts. Then, in a burst of light, Naruto vanished in front of all of his loved ones. Naruto first experienced the sensation of being slammed through what seemed to be an impenetrable wall. Next, he felt pain that seemed to be otherworldly and impossible, as if he were twisting, turning, breaking apart, and folding in on himself. Later, the pain simply stopped. October 10th, 1984, Central City. Light shot into Naruto's eyes, and he heard a faint wailing sound that he knew was coming from him. He felt slimy, and shock startled him when he realized what had happened. Even though his words sounded like sobs in real life, Naruto cursed in his head. Damn you, Kami! Why would you send me so far back that I actually experienced my own birth? Naruto heard a voice say, It's a boy, Mr. Allen, what do you want to name him? A male voice yelled, Nathan J. Allen. Kami's palace. Who would have imagined that the Trick King from Hell would succumb to such a ludicrous trick? Kami sat on their throne, laughing so hard they were having trouble breathing. Their first prank had gone incredibly well. Kami laughed and said, I knew it, Naruto was right, pranking is fun, no offense Kami-sama, but don't you think that once Naruto dies in his second life, he's going to get you back for this? One of Kami's angels responded, as Kami saw how hopeless they were, blood drained from his face. He knew that Naruto's pranking creativity and cleverness, which he had spent more than 2 millennia honing and perfecting, would be too strong for him. Oh crap! Was Kami's only response. March 14th, 1989, Central City. OXO Henry and Nora Allen's son, Nathan J. Allen, was now 5 years old. His deep blue eyes and vivid red hair had grown to resemble his mother during the previous 5 years. Even though Nathan was only 5 years old, he was already walking and talking by the time he was 1 year old, and he was able to understand concepts that no child his age should be able to. However, there were some concepts that he would not be able to understand until he was older, such as the idea of childbirth, or at least that's what everyone else believed. Every time Nathan heard his mother scream, he had to fight the impulse to run into the room because he knew his father would simply take him back outside and make him sit down again. Nathan was outside his mother's hospital room, when Nora Allen was giving birth to his younger brother, whom they intended to call Bartholomew Henry Allen, or Barry for short. I hope Mom's okay, she sounds like she's in a lot of pain. Nathan's mind was racing, constantly imagining different scenarios in which something went wrong, such as his mother dying, his new younger brother dying, or, heaven forbid, both. Tears were threatening to well up at the thought, but then he heard the tiny cries of a newborn instead of his mother's screams. Using his strong little legs, Nathan leaped from his seat and ran into the room, where he saw some of the doctors huddled around something. Ignoring this for the time being, Nathan ran as quickly as his legs would allow and climbed onto his mother's bed. When he saw her exhausted, sweaty face, his eyes glowed with concern. Nathan muttered, Mommy? Are you okay? With a sad smile, Nora moaned, Of course, my little storm, Mommy's just a little tired. Nathan gave her a small smile and nodded in comprehension. When his father touched him, Nathan jumped a little. Grinning, Henry said, Come on, son, let's take a look at the new addition to the family. And he lifted him up. Henry took his now eldest son to the tiny bed where his newest son lay. Nathan grinned and nodded slightly in agreement as he wrapped his arms around his father's neck. After glancing down at his new younger brother, Nathan turned to his father. Can I hold him, Dad? Nathan inquired carefully. Henry put him down, took Barry from his bed, and gave him to his brother. Yeah, of course, just be careful not to drop him, he added. With a nod of agreement, Nathan held his younger brother carefully while gazing down at him. He felt a sudden want to shield his sibling from his surroundings. Nathan's regard for Itachi increased even further as he considered. Is this how Itachi felt when Sasuke was born? I swear to you, Barry, I'll protect you from anything, even if you hate me, I'll always be here for you. This similar pledge would propel Nathan to become one of the world's greatest heroes. Allen Household XO Time Skip 11 years OX Nathan had fulfilled his pledge to protect Barry whenever he needed it, whether it was from bullies, teachers, or even himself. He would help him with his schoolwork, teach him how to have fun, and do all in his power to keep his brother safe and content. Joe West trusted Nathan to protect his daughter when he was unable to do so because he knew that Nathan would stop at nothing to keep Iris safe because she was Barry's buddy and crush. He had demonstrated this on multiple occasions by teaching her self-defense techniques. When Barry was 5 years old, Nathan taught his younger brother self-defense skills, how to exercise, and how to control his diet. He did this to help Barry learn more quickly and live a longer life. Nathan also helped his brother at school so he would never become a fool. With an IQ of over 300 at the age of 14, Nathan was a certified genius who studied martial arts and earned a first-degree black belt in karate, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, judo, aikido, tai chi, and capoeira. He was also a very good brother, but when he wasn't teaching his brother and Iris, he was always studying and passing every class with an A. He also made sure to maintain his health and exercise. This year, Nathan would graduate from high school, 2 years ahead of his peers. He knew he was intelligent and that his photographic memory and study habits allowed him to pick things up quickly. When combined with his recollections of his previous life, Nathan was sure to succeed. Even so, Nathan was unprepared for what was about to happen this evening. He woke up to a crash and jumped out of bed to see how his brother was doing. As he was making his way to his brother's room, he noticed odd lights coming from the living room downstairs. As he cautiously made his way down the stairs, he heard his mother yelling. In what appeared to be a lightning storm, Nora yelled, "No! Barry, stay away!" In an attempt to free his mother, Nathan sprang into action and grabbed his brother to keep him out of the lightning storm. He saw what appeared to be 2 men fighting inside the storm. One had a yellow suit and red eyes, while the other had a red suit with a lightning-themed emblem on his chest that was white and gold. When his father screamed for his brother to be taken and fled, Nathan was too preoccupied with the 2 speedsters' fight to notice. Suddenly, Nathan saw the man in yellow leaping at his brother, seemingly attempting to kill him, before the man in red knocked him aside. The man in red gave him a quick glance and nodded before disappearing with his brother. Nathan watched as his father was flung across the room, unconscious, before the red-eyed speedster stalked towards his mother. Nathan didn't know why, but he knew his brother was safe, so he focused on the man in yellow, who roared in rage. Nathan attacked the speedster using his martial arts knowledge, and despite the speed difference, his ability to randomly switch up his fighting style allowed him to kick the speedster in the sternum, and then break his outstretched left arm at the elbow. The man in yellow roared in intense rage before breaking Nathan's arm and leg. As the man left the house, Nathan pulled himself to his mother's body and started crying. He had fallen to the ground and had to watch as the man stabbed his mother in the heart. Nathan exclaimed, "Mom!" "And Nathan?" Nora questioned, gasping for air. With tears in his eyes, Nathan said, "Yeah, Mom, it's me." In a panic, Nora said, "Oh, my little Stormy Night, I'm so glad you're safe. Where's Barry, is he okay?" As Nathan grinned tearfully, "Yeah, Mom, Barry's safe, we're all safe. T that's good, promise me you'll take care of why your brother, P promise me." Nora pleaded as her eyes began to dry up. "I swear I will, I won't let anything happen to him. He's my precious little brother, after all," Nathan said, nodding his head shakily. Nora grinned, content that she could be sure her kids would be okay in her last moments. Nathan spent the next 30 minutes sobbing over his mother's lifeless body, mourning his loss, which is how the police discovered him. They hurried him to the ambulance, and then rushed back inside, where they later discovered his father's prints on the murder weapon. Sighing with relief, Nathan got off the edge of the ambulance and hobbled back into the house, ignoring the screaming pain and the paramedics' cries for him. He witnessed his brother kneeling next to his mother's body, with Joe at his side. Nathan had been stuck watching his father being dragged into the police car while yelling his innocence. While stooping and giving his younger brother a firm hug, Nathan said, "Barry! Thank God you're okay. What happened? Where'd you go?" "I don't know. 1 second I was in the house and the next I was in the middle of the street," Barry replied. "You have to let our dad go. He didn't do this. It was the man in yellow. He killed our mom," Barry cried as he turned to face Joe. "Sure, Barry, let's get you and your brother to the hospital first, then we can talk about this," Joe responded. Before guiding Nathan and Barry to the paramedics, Joe looked up at him and asked him a question. "Later," Nathan mouthed, and Joe nodded. As they drove to the hospital, Nathan let Barry sleep on him. He put an arm around his brother and gazed up at the ambulance's ceiling. "I don't know what happened tonight. I don't know what'll happen from this point on, but I'll protect him, Mom. I'll protect Barry and bring the man who killed you to justice, I swear it," Nathan said. This marks the start of the Flash and Phantom's tale. Now, although this might have appeared to be an isolated incident for Barry, it was nearly always the case. He knew he should buy a car, but he couldn't afford one, and he wasn't going to take money from Joe because he had already done so much for him. Barry thought about his brother for a moment before frowning once more. He had promised himself that, in light of what his brother had done to their family, he would never again ask his brother Nathan for assistance. Putting such ideas out of his head, Barry apologized to a bystander he had encountered and then hurried through Central City's congested streets to the active crime scene where he was required. "Second robbery this week," Detective Fredshire said as he left the bank that had just been broke into. Detective Joe West responded to his partner. "The teller I Clyde Martin as the shooter," Shire grumbled, frustrated. "What? Oh geez, the Martin brothers are back? What do we got?" Captain David Singh of CCPD asked, stalking up to the two detectives, handing his senior officer 2 images of the offenders. Joe responded. "Perps took the bank, shot out the cameras, and as a chaser, killed the security guard over there. I got units kicking in doors of known Martin Brothers associates." Singh nodded as he surveyed the crime scene. As Singh continued to examine the crime scene, he inquired, "CSI'd been over it?" Joe paused, then glanced up at his captain. No, where's Alan?" groaned the captain. Returning to Barry, Barry sighed as fatigue started to set in. "I'm sorry!" he shouted out, as he ran into another pedestrian. Grabbing hold of his CSI equipment, Barry ran onto the crime scene. Confronting his surrogate father, Chire, and the captain, he heard Singh discussing with Joe how his tardiness was slowing down the investigation as he stopped. Barry apologized for being late, Captain Singh. Singh looked at Barry and said, "What was it this time, Mr. Allen? Did you forget to set your alarm clock?" "Before you answer," Singh said, interrupting Barry as he was going to shake his head, "I should remind you that the excuse you gave last time was car trouble," Singh said. Barry embarrassedly nodded his head. Want to know why that was particularly memorable? Singh asked. I do not own a car, Barry stated, anxiously, after saying, he was running an errand for me. Joe turned to face his son. Barry, did you get me what I asked for? Joe asked, finishing by glancing at the young CSI. Yeah, I have it right here. Barry nodded, attempting to play along by ruffling through his pockets to give anything to his father figure. Unfortunately, all he could find was a half-eaten chocolate bar. In an awkward moment, Barry handed Joe the chocolate bar while his parents looked on incredulously, and the police captain and Detective Chai looked on incredulously. I had a few bites of it, so. Barry trailed off nervously. After noticing the expression Joe was giving him, Barry went to the crime site, put on his gloves, and knelt in front of a tire track on the road. After giving it a quick analysis, Barry addressed the three officers. Getaway car was a Mustang Shelby GT 500. Shelbys have a rear super-wide tire, specific to that model, 12 inches with an asymmetrical tread. With a shocked smirk, Joe jotted down the details in his notepad. There's something else, Barry said before standing and snatching Chai's pen from his coat pocket, not giving the detective chance to say anything. Thanks. Barry picked up a fragment of the material from the floor, held it to his nose, and whiffed it. His face twisted in disgust before he put it in an evidence bag. Fecal excrement, animal I'd guess. Chai scowled and said, My dad gave me that pen, before he died, sorry, Barry said clumsily. XOXO time skip. CCPD CSI Lab OXOX. A few minutes later, before heading to his department desktop, Barry turned on the analyzing machine. As he did so, pictures of the Martin brothers, one a brunette, the other a dirty blonde, came to life. Barry was filling out some reports when he looked up to see Iris, his sort of sister and crush, coming toward him. All right, I'm eager to witness this atom smasher in action, Iris clarified, uncertain. In order to add some notes to his crime board, Barry began. There was a shooting today. Your dad needs me to process some evidence, which means I don't know if we're going to be able to make it to STAR Labs, Barry said. Iris scowled and said, But seeing this thing turn on is like your dream, teasingly grabbing one of his fries. Your sad little nerdy dream, Iris said. Iris said matter-of-factly, In fact, I canceled the date for this. Hands off my fries, unbelievable, Barry remarked, seeing his crush eating his lunch. I'm stress eating over my dissertation. We started selling cronuts at Jitters. I ate 2 today. If I don't graduate soon, I'm gonna be more muffin top than woman, she joked. You look amazing, Barry said with sincerity. Barry turned around with a slightly hurt expression on his face as his crush disregarded his compliment once more, while Iris rolled her eyes and scoffed, dismissing it as he had just said it. In any case, what makes this particle accelerator so significant? Iris pondered as she walked up to Barry. Harrison Wells' work in quantum theory is light years ahead of anything they're doing at CERN, Barry shouted. You're doing that thing where you're not speaking English, Iris said. Turning his mind to a clear board, Barry strolled over and grabbed a marker. Okay, just imagine that dot is everything the human race has ever learned until this moment, Barry said. Does twerking fall under that category? Iris said snidely. That is everything we could learn from the particle accelerator. It's a whole new way of looking at physics. It will literally change the way we think about everything, Barry declared excitedly, ignoring her joke and drawing a large circle around the dot. You've got to get yourself a girlfriend, Iris said, grabbing her brother figure's shoulder. Hey, leave him alone, he's working, Joe reprimanded his daughter. Hi, Dad. Iris smiled. Iris turned to the computer after hearing a beep. She wrote, Your testing is done. Barry stalked to the computer, sat in the chair, and examined the information before turning to face Joe. I think the Martin brothers are hiding on a farm. The fecal matter I found on the street, it was cow manure, which contained traces of oxytetracycline. It's an antibiotic. There are only 4 farms in the area that still use it in their feed. Bet you'll find a really sweet Shelby parked at one of them, Barry said to his superior after printing out the locations. Dad, considering as how Barry handled your poop problem, how about letting him go to STAR Labs? Iris put her arm around Joe and begged. Looking at Barry closely, Joe eventually surrendered after a few seconds. Fine, go. Barry smiled, picked up his jacket, and practically bounded out of the room. In response, Barry called back, Thank you, Joe. Barry grinned at Iris, unknowing that she'd invited his elder brother to join them. With Nathan, 14 years had passed since that terrible night, which marked a turning point in the lives of Nathan and Barry. Their mother, Nora, was killed by the man in yellow, and their father, Henry, was deprived of his freedom after being falsely convicted of their mother's murder. The day of the trial, that was when Nathan knew that both his brother and himself were all they had left of each other. The day of the trial, Nathan was a key witness in his father's trial. Nathan knew that he couldn't just claim that a man with powers broke into his house and killed their father, so he came up with a simple, believable story. Flashback, 14 years ago. Mr. Allen, his father's defender called. Can you tell me what happened on the night of March 18, 2000? I woke up in the middle of the night, hearing a loud crash. I went to check on my brother. When I heard screaming downstairs, I made my way to the downstairs living room. I noticed my father on the floor unconscious. The door was broken in, and my mother was on the floor begging for her life. Standing over her was a man, wearing a mask and gloves. Nathan spoke. And where was your brother, Bartholomew Allen, at this point? The public attorney inquired. It turns out that before the man had knocked my father out, he told Barry to run, to get help. By the time I got down there, Barry was gone. The man hadn't noticed me yet, so I caught him by surprise. I'm sorry. But what did you do that caught him off guard? You're 16. The prosecutor asked. The defense attorney got ready to rebuttal, but Nathan responded first. I'm a first-degree black belt in multiple forms of martial arts. I learned how to switch between forms. It doesn't matter how strong or skilled the man was, he wasn't prepared. I broke his left arm before he broke my left leg and right arm. I was barely conscious and I had to watch as he stabbed my mother in the heart. Nathan gritted out. Can you tell me why your father's prints were all over the murder weapon? The defense asked. My father woke up minutes later, after she'd already died. He went into denial and tried to stabilize the wound. All the cops saw was my dad holding a bloody knife with his hands on my mother's dead body. I suppose seeing me with a broken leg and arm didn't help. Nathan mumbled. They arrested my dad, and my little brother walked in. My father was not in any way responsible for my mother's death. He is an innocent man who lost the love of his life. Nathan asserted forcefully. Thank you, the defense rests. Returning to the present, following that, Nathan witnessed firsthand how the rest of his family gradually lost faith in his father, viewing him as the vilified monster the prosecution painted him as. His own words were misrepresented and used against him, transforming him into a monster capable of committing the crimes he was charged with. Nathan and his brother were all that were left of their family, but the day Joe West took them in, Nathan knew things would get better. A few months later, Nathan left for MIT. Starting out as a sophomore, he took 2 years to graduate, gaining PhDs in applied physics, applied mathematics, electrical, chemical, biochemical, mechanical, and biological engineering. Nathan joined Mercury Labs after graduating from MIT, where he worked with some of the brightest scientists for 5 years. Before deciding to leave, he assisted Christina McGee with many of her projects and founded his own business, the Central Oversight and Research Examination Laboratories, or CORE Labs as it became known. It took 7 years for it to achieve the same level of renown as SDAR Labs and Mercury Labs. His company was notorious for transforming the medical industry and developing the first sustainable clean energy project in history, which he named CORE's ARC. With this technology, Nathan had rendered the use of fossil fuels and power plants all but pointless. Now, 14 years later, Nathan was a multi-billionaire with labs set up across the nation. He was working on a new project that involved the use of photons and was investigating hard light technology, which could be used for both medical and security purposes. When his phone rang, Nathan was using nanites to add a fine touch to his projects. He put down the touchpad and checked his phone, where he saw Iris. A few seconds later, Nathan answered the phone. "Hey lil sis, how are you?" Nathan smiled. "Hey Nathan, I was wondering if you could do me a favor and come to the STAR Labs Particle Accelerator launch with me and Barry," Iris said with a chuckle. "Iris, you know how Barry feels about me. I don't want to cause any problems." Nathan sighed. "You guys are brothers. He shouldn't even be mad at you. You've done nothing wrong. Besides, do it for me," Iris urged. "All right, fine." Nathan groaned in exasperation. Nathan locked down the room before leaving. On his way out, he greeted multiple workers and colleagues. "Leaving early, Mr. Allen?" one of his employees asked. "Yeah, helping a friend out. Don't stay too late, Danton," Nathan cried out, heading out the door. Nathan had encountered Danton Black when he had been working at Stag Industries. Hearing about his difficulty with his wife, Nathan took her in and treated her long enough for her to obtain the transplant she needed. Black had soon decided to work for CORE Labs soon afterward. Hopping into his car, something he designed himself, Nathan made his way to STAR Labs, where he'd meet up with Iris and Barry. Thinking about Barry made Nathan frown. Barry, during Nathan's time away, had gotten it into his head that Nathan had played a part in their father's conviction. He blamed him, saying that he hadn't done enough to defend their father, that he hadn't tried as hard as he could to convince the jury. Since then, their relationship had grown strained. Nothing he did or said could convince his younger brother he was wrong, and because he was so busy with work, he could never spend more than 1 or 2 hours with his brother. Nathan knew he should have made time, but deep down he did blame himself a little. While he knew what happened that night was impossible, he still believed he could have convinced them if he had tried harder. It didn't help ease his conscience that he had essentially abandoned his brother after the trial, leaving for 2 years, and when he did come back, he never had much time for him, so he couldn't do anything to prove to Barry that he still cared for him. But even with their tense relationship, Nathan still cared. He always would. As Nathan reaffirmed his oath, he thought, "I made you a promise to take care of Barry, Mom. I won't break it, even if he hates me forever." Upon arriving, Nathan stepped out of his car, still wearing the black denim jeans, white button-up shirt and navy blue vest he had worn to work. Shutting the driver's side door, Nathan stepped onto the sidewalk, scanning the crowd for his 2 companions. Upon seeing them, Nathan strode towards them with confident, graceful stride. "Well, I'm here as promised," Nathan directed at Iris. Ignoring the scathing look his little brother sent his way, Barry spat out venom. What are you doing here, Nate? Well, little brother, Iris asked me to come. Just 'cause you don't like me, doesn't mean that I'm not a part of the family, Nathan said carelessly. How was your trip, Barry? Did you find proof of the impossible in Starling City, or did you just make my dad mad for no reason? Iris inquired, diverting Barry's attention. She then took hold of their arms and pulled them to the podium, where SDR Labs founder Harrison Wells was getting ready to speak. Looking around, Nathan observed Martin Stein and Clifford DeVoe, giving both nods of greeting. Back when he was first establishing his own company, he had a run-in with both guys and found that they were quite competent in their respective professions. Actually, while I was away, I had time to think about, relationships, Barry said, laughing and turning away from his brother to face his crush. Suddenly engaged in the conversation, Nathan turned to his brother. Is he finally going to tell her about his crush? I'm not in one and you're not in one either, and you're my best friend Iris, Barry began. Why am I here if you're not also mine? Iris broke off, dropping Nathan and looking at Barry. Yeah, that's not what I meant, Barry tried to say, before Iris interrupted him once more. I know what you're gonna say, Barry, Iris said. I'm not sure you do, even though we pretty much grew up in the same house together, and we're kind of like brother and sister. Because we're not brother and sister, it can get really weird and awkward to talk to me about girls. But I just want you to know that it shouldn't be awkward. There is nothing more that I want for you than to meet the right person that loves and adores you for the amazing guy that you are. Iris smiled. Barry nodded his head, his face somewhere between a smile and a grimace. Took the words right out of my mouth. Nathan mentally sighed and face-bombed, staring at his brother pityingly. Aren't you glad I knew you so well? Iris bumped shoulders with Barry, shaking his head in disappointment. Nathan turned his attention to Harrison Wells, who'd started speaking, nearly missing the pickpocket who stole Iris' laptop. Hey, my laptop! It's got my dissertation in it! Iris shouted out. Nathan and Barry both ran after the thief, ignoring his attempts to shake them off. Nathan was slightly behind Barry when he watched him get taken out. Running past him, Nathan tripped the boy, flinging on his back before taking the bag back. Looking down at the young man, Nathan noticed the desperate and scared look in his eyes and cursed. Taking out his wallet, Nathan pulled out a few $100s and tossed it at the boy. Go! Was all Nathan said before the boy ran off. Drop the bag! Or do you want to find out if you're faster than a bullet? The officer said, smirking. Nathan's sweat dropped at the man's obvious attempt at being cool. Ignoring the police officer, Nathan walked up to Iris, who was helping Barry up, and handed her the bag. Next time, hang the bag over your other shoulder, harder to steal, Nathan instructed, before turning to Barry. What happened to you? I've taught you to handle something like that easily. You've been training, right? Nathan questioned. Oh, what do you care? Besides, why should I do anything you tell me to, traitor? Barry growled angrily. Right, well, maybe if you had listened to this traitor you wouldn't have been knocked on your ass by a kid almost a decade younger than you, Nathan retorted before turning away. Facing the detective, Nathan stretched his hand out. Hi, I'm Nathan. The angsty one behind me is Barry. And the girl next to him is Iris. I'm Eddie Thawne. Sorry about pointing my gun at you. Guess I misread the situation. The detective smiled sheepishly. Don't worry about it. You were just a little late to the show is all. Nathan shrugged his apology off. Turning to Iris, he spoke. Well, seeing as the particle accelerator is already online, I'll just be going. See you at Joe's for dinner. Walking back to his car, Nathan thought about what he had learned from Hartley Rathaway about the particle accelerator. What's your game, Harrison? Why are you risking the entire city just to turn this on? Shrugging off the nagging feeling, Nathan made his way back to his company, intent on at least finishing a good portion of his newest project before dinner. He was a couple minutes into his project when he heard a loud boom. Looking out the window, Nathan saw a bright light shoot into the sky, followed by a large wave of energy spreading out from STAR Labs. XOXO at the same time with Barry OXOX. Barry entered his lab and put his coat up, taking cautious to avoid the developing puddle that resulted from the skylight being open. Ignoring it for the time being, turned on his desktop to the news channel to find Linda Park talking on the weather and its lack of influence on the particle accelerator. Barry turned to his crime board and pulled up the map of the city, revealing his wall of weird newspaper articles were pinned to the board, the one about his father's imprisonment and mother's death in the center. Hearing alarms coming from the news report, Barry turned his head away from the board. Barry focused on the computer screen before it suddenly turned off. Before he could attempt to turn it on, he heard a loud explosion and saw a bright light from his window. Barry saw what looked like a beam of light shoot into the sky from STAR Labs, before a wave of energy suddenly expanded from the building. Realizing the skylight was still open, Barry paced to the chain that closes it. As he was about to pull on it, he noticed all of the liquids in the room start floating, the same way, he realized, they did the night of his mother's death. Looking up through the skylight, Barry saw lightning within the clouds. Before he could react, lightning broke through the window pane and traveled through the chain before striking him. The electric current blew Barry off his feet into the storage shelves. Barry passed out as chemicals soaked into his body, unknowing of the lightning coursing through his body, slowly changing him. XOXO back with Nathan OXOX. Nathan stared in shock as the energy wave approached him. The last thing he saw was a lightning bolt, the same color as the energy wave striking CCPD. Then he was hit by the wave, sending him flying into unconsciousness. Barry, Nathan thought, as he lost consciousness, unaware of the photons merging with the cells in his body. XOXO time skip. 3 months Central City Hospital. OXOX. Joe and Iris sat beside Nathan's bed, haggard and weary. It had been 3 months since the night of the particle accelerator. 3 months since STAR Labs nuked the city. 3 months since the Allen brothers were hospitalized. Barry had been struck by lightning, and since then had been seizing spontaneously and coincidentally. The hospital's electrical system would start to act up at the same time. Nathan was in a similar situation, had been blasted across the room of his lab and was later found by Danton Black, who'd been working late. Upon being taken to the hospital, doctors were baffled because Nathan was completely fine. There were no issues either inside or outside of his body, but he was completely unresponsive. The doctors could do nothing to wake him from his coma since they didn't know why he was in one. All they could do was wait and hope for the best. Joe and Iris had called Core Labs numerous times, asking them to try and help Barry. But without Nathan there to take charge, the company refused. They saw no point in even attempting to help Barry. So, Barry was eventually moved to STAR Labs at Joe's reluctant request, where he could be treated properly. Nathan stayed at the hospital, completely unresponsive. Joe and Iris wore themselves out worrying about the two. Joe's new partner Eddie had begun to take Joe's shifts so that the Allen brothers' adoptive father could visit them. It had been 3 months since they had fallen into a coma. Each day, Joe and Iris could feel their hope dying. Every day they didn't wake up, a little part of Joe and Iris died. It caused them emotional agony to watch them lie there unmoving. Iris just couldn't handle the emotional pain any longer. She had to leave. "I'm going for a coffee run, Dad. Do you want anything?" Iris croaked out. "No, I'm okay, honey, thanks." Joe responded. Iris nodded slowly. Before walking out the room, suddenly, Nathan's eyes sprang open and he sprung up. Either Joan nor Iris could say anything, astonished as they watched Nathan's eyes glow a brilliant white light. As the glow faded, Nathan turned around to find Joe and Iris. What happened? All I remember is a wave of energy? Where am I? Nathan asked, looking around. You scared the hell out of us, Nate. You and Barry have been in a coma for 3 months, Joe said, grabbing his adoptive son in a hug. As Iris approached to give him a hug, Nathan said, 3 months? Wait, Barry is in a coma? Yeah, he hasn't woken up yet. We're still unsure why. Joe explained. Where is he? Nate questioned, straining to stand. Whoa, Nate, you need to lie still. You've been in a coma for 3 months. Barry's at STAR Labs. It's the only place that could stabilize him. Iris explained. Stabilize? Why would STAR Labs need to stabilize him? Nathan asked. Nate, Barry was struck by lightning. He somehow survived, but he kept seizing and the doctors couldn't figure out why. STAR Labs took him in and helped him. Iris explained. Alright, well, let's get me out of here, then we can figure out how to help Barry. Nathan replied. XOXO time skip, 6 months CORE. Labs OXOX. It took him 3 days to get discharged. The doctors ran every test they could on him in such a short time, but they couldn't find anything wrong with him. Still, Nathan couldn't help the nagging feeling that there was something different. Being told that his eyes glowed when he woke up by Joe definitely raised some concerns, so the first thing Nate did was head into CORE Labs, where the president of his company, Hartley Rathaway, greeted him. Hartley, after being fired by Harrison Wells, found his way to CORE Labs, where he was hired on the spot and put into place as the company's president almost immediately. Until Hartley had come along, Nathan had not decided on one yet, not able to find someone up to his standards. Working with Hartley, who had also changed as a result of the particle accelerator, helped Nathan find out what was wrong with him. They had found that Nathan's entire molecular structure was saturated with photons and numerous other X elements. As a result, Hartley and Nathan both hypothesized that he could potentially manipulate photons. Nathan had also been helping Hartley to control sound waves in order to better understand his damaged ears. For 6 months, Nathan had been practicing controlling his new abilities. All he'd been able to do up until that point was control darkness. Hartley had hypothesized that because darkness was the result of photons vibrating at a much lower frequency, it would be easier for him to control it than manipulating light. Hartley and Nathan had came to the conclusion that Nathan had to first master manipulating darkness before he could begin to grasp how to manipulate light. So for 6 months he had begun to gently learn to resonate with the same frequency as shadows and then learn to manipulate and generate it. So far, he had learned to shape and solidify shadows. He had learned to build weapons, such bow staffs and bows. Nathan had also learned to vibrate at the same frequency as shadows. Becoming a shadow for the first time was insane. XOXO flashback. CORE Labs OXOX. 4 months. Nathan was looking at Hartley through the mirror. He was in a pair of black sweatpants and muscle shirt. He looked down at his watch, something he and Hartley had created to monitor his biological functions. It was capable of handling the vibrations of light and darkness. Okay, Nate, this is the first time you're trying to vibrate at the same frequency as shadows. Don't expect it to work immediately. If you feel something wrong, stop. We should take our time figuring it out. Hartley remarked over the intercom. Nodding, Nathan closed his eyes. Nathan had learned a long time ago, through his memories of the past, that meditating was a great way to unlock hidden talents. As Nathan sat there, Letting his mind drift along, he felt something. It started out cold, and suddenly it was this warmth, like a blanket of darkness. Unbeknownst to him, Hartley saw what appeared to be shadows start to flow out and around Nathan. Gradually, the shadow covered Nathan, giving him the appearance of a living silhouette, a shadow acting as though it were real. Then, Nathan's eyes opened, and Hartley saw a pure, shining white pair of irises, black pupils, and mascara instead of the vivid blue he was used to. When Nathan opened his eyes, it was like a whole new universe came into view. He could see everything, hear everything. He felt connected to every shadow, every instance when darkness was there. He was the shadows. The new world progressively overloaded him. It was too much, and then it was gone. Nathan abruptly turned to face the voice and noticed Hartley standing in front of him, flailing his arms in his face. Nate! Hello? Nate! What? What is it? Nathan questioned, confused. He said, You were vanishing. What? When you turned into a shadow, you started to vanish, like you were melting into your own shadow. What happened? Hartley was worried. I don't know, it was like I was everywhere. I closed my eyes and I was suddenly everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Every instance that a shadow was present, I could see it, hear it. Nathan was unable to clarify. Incredible. It's like you had what can be called shadow vision. You used low-level photons to absorb information. But then why were you vanishing? What were you thinking about at the time? Hartley said. Nathan shrugged and said, Nothing really, I was just letting my mind drift. Interesting. Without something to focus on, you ended up seeing everything. Hartley inferred. Okay, but that doesn't explain why I started to disappear unless. Nathan trailed off, eyes widening. You're connected to the shadows, you're connected to them, you see what they see, you hear what they hear. It's possible that you can merge with them, a shadow form, so to speak. Hartley exclaimed. Nathan grinned and remarked, Wow, it looks like I'm going to need to work on my skills more. Then, let's get to it. Hartley grinned. Flashback end. After his first attempt, Nathan had kept practicing his ability to merge with the surrounding shadows as well as maintaining his shadow form while remaining solid, in addition to learning to create and manipulate. Nathan had added some very interesting abilities to his defensive and offensive capabilities. Nathan worked to solidify shadows into weapons ranging from bows, blades, and polearms using his prior knowledge of martial arts, which he had continued to practice, and the additional weapons specialist. Over the course of 6 arduous months, Nathan learned how to multitask in order to maintain the shape and form of his shadows while honing his fighting skills. It reminded him of when he had first learned the Rasengan, and when he had first created the Rasen Shuriken. Nathan reminisced of the time Kakashi taught him to master his wind element. It took him time to master his shadow ability since he didn't have the muscle memory to speed the process up. He frequently meditated to learn how to manage his skills, multitask, and emotions. Surprisingly, despite his newfound abilities, Nathan managed to continue working, completing and beginning new projects, and even finding time to assist other scientists in completing their work. Since the particle accelerator explosion, COR, E-Lab and Mercury Labs had been competing for first place in the world's leading technological company. Numerous government contracts had piled up in his 3-month absence. Some involved creating dangerous weapons while others had the potential to make life safer. He'd even had time to invent a better alternative to weapons for law enforcement. He'd spent months creating a dendrotoxin-based stun weapon that knocked targets out safely. They were safer and better than bullets and guns. With one shot, the victim is out for 6 whole hours. It was one of the projects in a new line of weaponry for law enforcement. He hadn't come up with a name for them yet, but he was partial to ICER, or incapacitating cartridge emitting railgun, coupled with a specialized baton called ION, or isolated opposition neutralizer, which sends small, non-lethal, electrical bursts into the target's nervous system and heart, causing temporary paralysis or loss of consciousness. It was created to replace batons and tasers, as both could cause potentially lethal damage. This was just one of the many projects he had been able to finish. At the moment, Nathan was working on a private project. He was developing a supersuit that, in latent terms, could adapt to his abilities and provide him with protection and mobility. Until now, he had chosen to make a suit out of two metals he had discovered in Egypt and a small African nation. He had also forged a metal fiber that he used to line the suit's internal components, making it stronger, lighter, and more flexible. He chose to call the first metal nth metal and the second vibranium. Vibranium appeared to absorb vibrational and kinetic energy, making it very durable, whereas nth metal was still unknown despite being light, strong, and durable. The suit was almost completely black with some white lining the suit, making the suit pop. The suit also had a mask that had a see-through visor, micro cameras, and a breathing apparatus that could filter smoke and any form of gas. He designed the mask to be black and white like the suit. It imitated a Japanese oni mask, but was faceless apart from the eye holes and the 6-inch horns that jutted out from the frontal eminence of the mask. The suit was made up of a mesh sweater, a protective vest, a pair of black pants, knee-high black boots with cross straps similar to those of the Renaissance era, a pair of greaves, a pair of elbow-length gauntlets, and 2 hand wraps. Nathan also planned to make a 10-feet scarf that he would use to capture and stop his targets. The scarf would allow for him to dampen his targets' powers in case they had powers. Smiling at how his new suit looked, Nathan saved it in his own private servers. Suddenly his phone rang. Looking at his phone, Nathan saw that it was one Cisco Ramon, one of the 3 remaining scientists working at STAR Labs. Nathan had met Cisco, Caitlin, and Harrison when he went to visit Barry. XOXO flashback. 6 months STAR Labs OXOX. Nathan looked around as he walked through the halls. The building schematics was amazing. As Nathan made his way into a room with a dashboard of computers, looking slightly ahead, Nathan saw Barry lying in a bed within 4 drip. Walking towards his comatose brother, Nathan felt a burden settling on his shoulders. Nathan took his brother's hand and sat down beside the bed. "Hey Bear, it's me, Nate. Sorry I haven't been around to visit you. You weren't the only one stuck in a coma." Nathan started, chuckling a little. "Listen, Barry, I know you don't like me. I know you don't consider me a brother. But I need you to wake up. You're the only thing I have left, man. I promised Mom and Dad that I'd be here for you," Nathan said with tears in her eyes. "If you die, if you don't wake up, that means that I failed. I can't fail, Barry. I did everything I could to protect you, to raise you. I stopped pursuing Mom's killer. I went to college, leaving you behind for 2 years. Also, I could keep you safe and protected. I don't know if you can hear me, but I need you to wake up. I need to know that everything that I've done for you wasn't for nothing. I know you hate me, but I promised our parents that I would be here for you even as an obstacle, because I love you, little brother. I would be willing to do anything for you, even if it means I have to bear your hatred and your burdens, so please, wake up soon." Nathan cried silently. When Nathan heard footsteps, he quickly let go and wiped his eyes before turning to face the room's entrance and noticing 2 people, a pale brunette and a small Latino man, both of whom were frantically waving their arms. The 2 turned and stopped when they saw Nathan, tensing up and getting ready to call the police. Since the particle accelerator explosion which had killed Ronnie, Caitlin's fiancé and Cisco's best friend, both had had to call the police multiple times due to people constantly breaking in to deface Star Labs or harass their boss Dr. Harrison Wells, who lost his ability to walk in the explosion. They didn't pay much attention to who was in front of them, nor did they care much. They just wanted him out. Who the hell are you? What are you doing here? How did you get here? The Latino questioned. Hi, I'm Nathan Allen. I was just checking up on my brother here. The door was open. Your security sucks, by the way, Nathan said, clearing his throat and attempting to get rid of the lump in his throat. Okay, rude. I'm Cisco Ramon, the one who built the security. This is Dr. Caitlin Snow. She's the one who's taking care of your brother, Cisco exclaimed deadpan. Welcome, Nathan Allen, CO of CORE Labs, a voice called out. Turning his gaze to the left, Nathan observed Harrison Wells, in a motorized wheelchair, making his way towards him. Narrowing his eyes briefly, Nathan decided to play along. Schooling his face, Nathan grinned. Shaking Wells' hand, Nathan listed off. Harrison Wells, ex-world-renowned scientist, creator of STAR Labs and the particle accelerator. Cisco and Caitlin frowned at what they deemed to be disrespect while Wells chuckled. Okay, Sir A-Lot, why don't you show some gratitude? If it wasn't for Wells, your brother would still be seizing in the hospital, okay? Cisco replied, slightly agitated. If it wasn't for Wells, my brother wouldn't have been struck by the lightning bolt that put him in the hospital in the first place, Nathan replied. Nathan turned to face Caitlin after noticing the icy glance she gave him. Do you have something to say to me, Dr. Snow? The icy response from Caitlin was, just that I think you should leave now. Nathan nodded and turned to leave. I will be back every week to visit my brother, Nathan said, turning. Cisco, right, let's exchange numbers, that way you can call me when he wakes up, Nathan replied. Cisco sighed and nodded, giving his number reluctantly. Cisco glared at him. Look, I get that you're worried about your brother. I can respect that. What I can't respect is that you're blaming Dr. Wells for the accident. There was no way he could have predicted what was gonna happen. No one was at fault, Cisco replied. Nathan turned and walked away after biting back a remark and nodding. You're a good kid, Cisco. If you ever feel like looking for a new job, you're always welcome at CORE Labs, Nathan laughed. As Nathan went away, Cisco looked at his back in disbelief and grinned a little. When he turned around, he saw Caitlin and Wells staring at him. Cisco cleared his throat and hurriedly apologized before leaving. Caitlin remarked, "What a jerk, cute though." Caitlin blushed a little and shook her head before checking the patients in STAR and Labs. Flashback termination. Nathan grabbed his phone and answered, shaking his head to get the memory out of his mind. Hey Cisco, how are you? Is Barry alright? He woke up, so yes, he's okay. When Cisco responded, Nathan's face lit up. Where is he? Knowing him, he probably went as fast as possible, Nathan muttered as he grabbed his large coat. I believe he went in search of Iris, Cisco stated. Yeah, okay, thank you, Cisco. Nathan replied gratefully. Nathan rushed to his car and drove quickly to CC Jitters, Iris's place of employment. While driving, he considered what he could say to preserve what little remained of his relationship with his brother. Rather than thinking about anything else, Nathan chose to concentrate on his driving. Nathan gave himself a small pep talk before entering the building, and as he pulled up to Jitters, he started to bite his inner cheek, a habit he had developed when he was nervous. The first sound he heard was the clattering and crashing sound of cups falling. Nathan approached an employee named Tracy, knelt down, and began assisting her in picking up the pieces. "Tracy? You okay?" Iris inquired. "Fleeting," Tracy said. No, I'm okay. You don't have to help me either, it's no problem." Nathan smiled, picking up the last piece. Nathan looked to Barry and Iris, smiling slightly. Nathan waved at the two. "Hey Bear, Iris, glad you woke up, Barry. I was really worried about you, little bro," Nathan said. "I'm sure you were. I wonder where that concern was for our dad when you broke his trust," sneered Barry, flinching at the venom in his brother's tone. Nathan stalked up to his brother with an emotionless face and stared at him. Being a good half-inch taller, Barry had to look up at him. Acting quickly, Nathan pulled his brother into a hug. "Look, I get that you hate me. I get that you blame me for Dad's imprisonment. But for once, can you just let me act like your brother?" Nathan muttered, unsure of what to do. Barry nodded slightly and gave his brother a hug in return. Iris grinned slightly as they briefly reconnected, and Nathan released his brother and grinned at him. Nodding, Nathan said, "So, why is it that I knew the first thing you'd do after waking up from a coma would be visiting Iris? Getting a little predictable, little bro." Nathan laughed. Blushing a little, Barry punched his brother's shoulder. "Shut up, Nate. You check up on Joe yet? You know his old heart can't take so much stress." Nathan smiled, a joking tone. No, not yet. Why don't you give Barry a ride there, Nate?" Iris encouraged, trying to solidify the small bond the two brothers had regained. Nathan nodded, a little before grabbing his brother and pulling him out to his car. Both of the brothers entered the car and drove out of the parking lot. On their way to CCPD, Barry and Nathan would glance at each other awkwardly. Sighing, Barry reached for the radio. Barry said, "Let's play some music." "Yeah, no, don't even try that. Knowing how awkward the situation already is, the universe is gonna screw us over and make every song for the rest of the drive even more awkward," Nathan stated, swaying his brother's hand away from the radio. Barry couldn't help but nod in agreement, knowing how true it was. Sighing, Barry put his hand through his hair. "I don't hate you, Nate, not anymore. I felt like you abandoned me. I mean, our mom had just died. Our dad was going to prison for her murder, and you just left for college. I mean, it was like you were trying to forget about us. I get that it wasn't your fault that Dad was wrongfully convicted. I should have never put that on you. But it hurt me that you left so soon after everything happened. I mean, you were 16. You could have waited a year before going." Barry explained. "I promised Dad." Nathan answered immediately. "What?" Barry asked. "When I went to visit him after he got arrested, he made me promise that I wouldn't wait to go to college. He made me swear that as soon as the trial ended that I would go to MIT. Said Nathan. "Why? How come he would do that?" Barry asked. "For you. I wanted to stay. I wanted to wait 2 years before going to MIT. But he told me that I needed to go now. He made me swear that I would graduate college before coming back, so I could watch out for you financially and familially. He wanted me to get a good-paying job that I could use to take care of you financially, so he made me promise to go." Nathan explained. "Why didn't you tell me?" Barry asked. "You were 11, Barry. Your mom had just died and your dad had been accused of murder. If you'd found out what Dad had asked of me, you may have ended up blaming him. I would rather you hate me than him. I made a promise to Mom to take care of you. It's why I had Dad promise never to tell you of why I did what I did." Nathan explained, eyes shifting between the road and his brother. "Why would you help me with all of this? Why let me hate you?" Barry asked. "Like I said, I made a promise to Mom and Dad, but I also made a promise to you and myself when you were born. I swore that I would protect you, that I would be here for you whether it was as an obstacle or as a support. Nathan smiled at him. It was my job as your older brother to bear all of the heavy burdens. Barry gaped at his brother, astonished that he would go to such lengths for him. Well, we're here, let's go ease dear old Joe's heart. Nathan jokes, smiling wryly, smiling. Barry got out of the car. As they both made their way onto the elevator, Barry turned to Nathan. I don't want to hate you anymore, Nate, Barry said. I don't want you to hate me either. Nathan grinned. The two brothers grinned as they exited the elevator and headed for Joe's desk. He heard footsteps in the elevator, so Joe turned around. When he saw Barry awake, his eyes widened in surprise, and he abruptly went to embrace his surrogate son. You scared the hell out of us, kid, Joe said. Barry and Nate smiled. As Barry hugged his father figure back, letting go, Barry heard a voice. That was quite the nap there you took, baby face, and you still look 12, says an officer. Chuckling, Barry turned back to Joe, who had a concerned look on his face. You seem fine, don't you? Yeah, Barry said, nodding. When Joe had been summoned away, Nathan stood beside his brother. With a shout, Let's go, partner. Joe turning their heads, Nathan and Barry saw Eddie following Joe. As he passed them, he greeted them before turning to Iris. Hey Iris, Eddie said with a smile. Iris said icily, Detective, you should leave. My dad dislikes being kept waiting. Sighing, Nathan knew that Barry would be upset once he found out that Iris and Eddie were seeing each other. Eddie's smile lessened. Before he wished Barry well and left, Barry turned and looked after him before seeing a memorial. Iris swiftly recounted that Chire had been killed by Clyde Martin the night of the particle accelerator explosion before she was summoned away by a cop. Hey Barry, good to see you, an officer called out as he helped to record a new detainee. Barry gave him a smile before he and Nathan noticed the detainee's hand reaching for another officer's rifle. Before Nathan could react, he saw a blur smash into the detainee. Following the blur's path, Nathan was startled to see it halt at his side and turn into his brother. Barry glanced at his brother, equally as astonished. Before he could say anything, Nathan grabbed his brother and took him out into the car. What on earth is going on with me? Barry inquired, starting to breathe heavily. I don't know, but you're not the only one with abilities. Since I woke up, I've encountered 3 other people with abilities like you, Nathan said. Something happened the night of the particle accelerator explosion. I think it's about time you and I got some answers from Dr. Wells, Nathan stated, driving off to STAR Labs. They had no idea what to anticipate, and they were both in for a surprise.